episode 142, Lessons from the Other Side. Welcome to Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast helping micropreneurs find your micro-influencer magic. I'm your host, Kandas Rodarte, and this week I'm joined by Tanya Bugbee and Glenna Griffin. And boy, is there a story to tell behind this. But before we get into it, hey, Gratitude Geeks, the biggest card and gift sending holiday of the year is drawing ever more near. Release the stress of your holiday card sending and get it done now. You can make your holiday card and choose a specific date to send it. That means your stress over your holiday cards can be gone in just a few minutes for the rest of the season. Learn how at relationshipmarketingcoach.com. Okay, now let me tell the story and then we'll get into the interview. So around the year 2013, I'm going to say it's 2013, I was driving home from a networking meeting and I decided to drive through the downtown area where we lived. It was the city is called Conroe, Texas. And Conroe had been really depressed for a couple of decades. The downtown area basically was a courthouse and a couple of attorneys, and it was really quite sad. And Conroe had once been a very bustling town. It was the county seat, and it's just north of Houston, and it had a train station and all sorts. It had a really rich history, but downtown in 2012, not so good, or 2013, not so good. So I'd always told my husband, the city needs a coffee shop in the downtown area. It needs a coffee shop. And so I'm driving home and I decided to go the downtown route because it was quicker. And it was driving through downtown was quicker. So that tells you how depressed the downtown area was. So I'm driving home and to my left, out of the corner of my eye, I see a sign that says Conroe Coffee. And I immediately slammed on the brakes and pulled into a parking space in front of the coffee shop, went inside, ordered some coffee, and then opened up my phone, got onto Facebook and said, who wants to meet me at the brand new coffee shop in downtown Conroe tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever it was. And the next morning, like 6 people showed up. And 2 of those people are here with us in the podcast today. Eventually, I don't think it was, time melds together and I don't know if I have all the facts right, but maybe the second time we showed up at the coffee shop together, my husband decided to bring a camera. And so Glenna and Tanya and I launched a YouTube talk show in September of 2013. And our conversation was all around business networking tips. And I, for the fun of it, decided that it would be really cool to actually share the video during this podcast. So, but while I'm queuing this up, Glenna used to do, so I'm going to tell you what they used to do, and then I'm going to let Glenna and Tanya tell you what they do now. So Glenna used to be the travel diva, and Tanya used to be a real estate agent. Glenna, what do you do now?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm a crafter now, and I'm with a company called iHub Global, which I still end up being a travel diva because they have a travel platform, which is what drew me to them in the first place. So yeah, and I live in the middle of nowhere. So have no networking prospects anymore. So that's my life now.
Oh, and Tanya, what do you do now?
Well, I still have my real estate license, and that is a very, very small part of what I do. What I do for joy is I'm a leadership business coach. So I do coach real estate agents, but I coach other business owners as well. So, and executives as well. So it's executives who want to get that next promotion or who are getting, maybe not some great yearly reviews on their leadership skills. I love coaching. I love helping people get to where they want to go. So that's me now.
Excellent. So you guys are kind of still in the same realm. Mm-hmm. However, none of us, not a single one of us, still lives in Conroe.
Nope.
I moved to Michigan. Glenna, you moved north, and Tanya lives
in San Diego.
In God's country.
Yes.
So, all right. So let me share my screen and let's watch the video and then let's talk about it.
We can make it easier than they can. We can make it better than before.
Kandas Rodarte, gratitudegeek.info, and I'm sitting here in Conroe Coffee at 206 North Main in downtown Conroe with Travel Diva Glenna, the queen of networking, and Tanya Bugbee, who is the director of a very large networking chapter. And we're going to give you some best practices when it comes to networking. Travel Diva, since you're the queen of networking, tell me what your best practice is.
The best practice is when someone walks into a room that you're visiting, that you greet them and you ask about them and get to know them. And that is not the business card. Do not hand out that business card at first. It's building that relationship, and that's all it is. Build that relationship, and you'll be surprised what happens.
Exactly. Tanya, tell us some of the things that you've seen people do right and some of the things that people have done that aren't quite right.
Okay, so to build on what Glenna said, definitely building relationships is the number one key. Is being genuine, asking them how you can help, giving back to them, and then saying, hey, this is what I need at an appropriate time. But to ask first, it doesn't work. So the gals that come into networking group that are like, oh, it's all about me and give to me, they're the ones that eventually drop out. And the ones that are giving and then receiving, that's where it's all about.
Excellent. Those are both great tips. One thing I'd like to add is that when you meet somebody and you make that connection, then get their business card. Make sure you have their mailing address and send them a greeting card saying how nice it was to meet them with your photo included so that they can connect your face with your name, and the next time they see you, you're like their best friend. Visit my website, gratitudegeek.info.
Oh my.
At the
Yeah.
end, I think that my husband was telling us to smile. We were all looking up. All right.
We were
so,
nervous.
it's been 9 or 10 years since we recorded that video. So what's changed?
Well, the tips are still accurate.
Yep.
So nothing's changed
No, other than my last name.
other than your last name. So lessons from the other side are really, it's been 9 years. We've gone through a pandemic. All of us have moved, but the lessons of networking haven't changed at all. Keep doing the good things and the smart things. So what else have you guys learned in the last 9 years? Glenna?
Oh gosh. Oh dear. That's really
A can of worms?
yeah. My life is really, when I moved, it changed big time.
Well, that maybe we should talk about that, because all of us have moved. So we've all had to start over, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tanya, what is something that you did to help you start over?
I hired a coach for one, to help me, and really what I've learned over the last 9-10 years is life is too short. It goes by too fast. I know it's corny. I know it's on every greeting card, do it now. Life's too short. What are you waiting for? So my mantra that I have on my bathroom mirror is, what the F are you waiting for, Tanya?
I love
Because
that.
I just can't believe, that I was 10 years younger, and it just feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it does. Looking at that video, it does feel like it was just yesterday. Oh, gosh, that coffee shop isn't even open anymore.
No, but it was good.
It was good. It became the place. The thing about that coffee shop is it was exactly what the town needed. There was nothing else there but the coffee shop. And then slowly, year after year, restaurants opened, bars opened, businesses opened, the antique shop started to thrive. And by the time that I
was
had
that
moved,
radio show host that opened right next door.
and
Do you remember him?
Rick Schishler.
Yep.
So the town, and that coffee shop was exactly what Conroe needed. And now they don't need it anymore because the downtown area is doing great without it.
Yeah.
And also Leo has moved to California as well.
Yeah.
The owner of the coffee shop.
They're about 2.5 hours north of me. Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody in that video, because Leo was in the video, she was fixing the coffee in the back of the video. So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
4 of the women in that video no longer live in Conroe.
Conroe.
Thank
Do you have time for a quick story? You might
Oh,
want to edit this
absolutely.
out. But Conroe coffee story, what I needed, I was going through a divorce at the time, and it was right next to the courthouse, or right behind, it's kind of like a block from the courthouse. And I remember going in to file the divorce papers, and it was one of those freaky, Texas, we have an ice storm. So there was ice everywhere, and the roads were super slick. And I'm wrapped in a jacket. So I'm holding my jacket like this, and I'm holding my divorce papers, and I'm getting right in front of the courthouse, and I'm just getting ready to go up the stairs, and I step on ice, and I slip, and I fall on my face. Blood everywhere.
Oh my
coming out of
gosh.
my nose.
God.
Lawyers coming from all over the place trying to help me.
I'm sorry, that's hilarious. You slip on
No.
the courthouse and the attorneys start to attack.
No. So I go in, they're handing me their handkerchiefs and paper towels, and I'm fine. And I go in to file my papers, which the funny part is that they thought maybe I was filing papers because my husband beat me or something. I don't know. Right. But this point of the story is, afterwards I went to Conroe Coffee, and Leo saw that I was pretty banged up and took me to her back room, took me into the restroom, gave me some warm towels, got me cleaned up, sat me down with some coffee. And, that just became a place it became our hub.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
It was. And that coffee shop really was our meeting place. It's where we all hung out. It's where we would run into each other even when we weren't hanging
Right.
out together.
Yeah.
It really, the camaraderie that went along with being at the coffee shop was spectacular.
It was.
So I forgot to mention something. This is kind of important. All right. So episode 141, I interviewed Dr. Ivan Meisner. So the episode, last week's episode, Dr. Ivan
Right.
Meisner. And he said that his favorite number is 142 because that's his astronaut number. He's flying on Virgin Galactic, and he's astronaut number 142.
Wow.
And I wish that I had known this when I interviewed him, because 142 is also a pretty big number for me as well. This is the 100th episode that I've recorded since I relaunched my podcast in 2020.
Nice.
So this is episode 100 of the all new and improved podcast. So it's a celebration day. We're celebrating, helping. You're partying with me. Yay.
Yay.
Okay, lessons
That's
from the
awesome.
other side. What else have you learned?
What else have I learned? Oh gosh, COVID gave me so many lessons about grace and compassion.
Compassion. Talk about that.
Yeah. It was so hard on so many people, in so many different ways, right? We're not, humans aren't cookie cutter humans, right? So some people thrived and lost a lot of weight and got exercise equipment, and some people fixed their homes up. Some people gained weight. I'm raising my hand on that one. Just not judging and showing compassion to for major things like that. And through COVID, my daughter got married. So my youngest was at Pepperdine University during COVID. So she had to come home her senior year. What senior wants to go home and live with mom, their senior
Mine
year?
did the same thing.
Yep. And I loved it, but I don't think she loved it. Right. Then her fiance moved in, and then they got married, and the compassion around masks, no masks, who wanted to wear one, who didn't want to wear one, just that whole battle, and then doing it around a wedding.
Yeah.
At my house. And so I had to give up that it was my house. Kind of gave it up. But just so much grace and compassion around other people's point of views and perspectives. And then coming together and having a wedding that was the most beautiful, gorgeous, intimate experience that everybody should experience in their lifetime.
Yeah. So how many
Yeah.
people were at the wedding?
20. And I had to sneak in 8 because we were only allowed in California to have events up to 10 or 11. And so I had to sneak and hide cars and park them elsewhere to have 20 people in my home. But 20 was
Yeah.
the number. Yeah.
That seems really intimate and small and probably beautiful.
Well,
Probably
we
perfect.
zoomed in like 60.
Yeah. Oh,
thank God
you
for
had a
Zoom.
Zoom wedding.
Yeah.
Isn't Zoom amazing?
Yeah. So we zoomed in everybody else, and then we turned it off after the ceremony and enjoyed dinner and all that kind of thing. And it was, and my other daughter got married 2 years prior, had a wedding of almost 100 people. And again, it was a beautiful wedding. It was an absolutely beautiful wedding, and she was a beautiful bride. And there's still the drama around, 100 and plus people getting together, drinking a lot, all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
So
Yeah. My
So that's what
sisters
I've
and
learned.
my sisters and I had completely different weddings.
Yeah.
Completely, three completely different wedding experiences.
Yeah.
But you know what? They were all fun. And they were all, they all accomplished the objective, and all of us, are still married to the same man that we married on that weird wedding that we, we had. So, we did something right. I don't know.
Well, that is something else to celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah. So Glenna, what have you learned
Yep.
in the last 9 years?
Oh my gosh. It's life changes like crazy. I mean, I was like I networked so much down in Conroe, and I had a blast, met made so many friends and such. And then to come up here and just to find out there's nothing. And it's been a big shock. I've had a lot of, and I did have a business coach, but she passed a few years ago. It was
She was
Kathy
a pretty,
Brandon.
Kathy Brandon. She was a really neat lady.
Yeah. She passed suddenly. She'd been sick for quite a while with cancer, and all. And I was helping her with we were doing aromatherapy, the essential oils, and that was helping her some. And then she got away from them, and that's when and she was getting ready to go back onto the protocol that I had found. And next thing I knew, she was gone. And so my life really changed after I lost her, but because we had a really good friendship too.
Yeah.
And I tried to start a networking group here, and it just didn't work. No one was interested. It was just they just don't do it. They just don't network. They don't, which seems to me kind of crazy. And I was going to do another one, I was going to do another startup one, because I had met some ladies at one of the places that had opened up in Garrison. And they were, a lot of them were in multi-level marketing companies, but they also worked other places. So they would only be able to meet at night. Well, for me, nighttime is not a viable option anymore.
Yeah.
And so, because of where I live now, in the country, it's not real safe to be out at night around here. And and then she closed her doors. So that the care that was like, it's just that, people here just don't really support businesses a whole lot. They've gotten so used to going to Nacogdoches or, to do their shopping. I mean, when my mother-in-law, when I first married, there was a little grocery store. We would always go to that little grocery store and get groceries. It no longer exists. It's not existed for years, for a long time.
Well,
the Garrison Square was basically dead. It's dry count. It was a dry area. Well, now we do have a liquor store. There is a clinic. There's 2 banks. And it's hard for the businesses in this area to survive, even in the little town of Timpson, which is like about 15-20 minutes away. their downtown area is basically dead. They have nothing. There's a few stores here and there, but there's nothing.
Isn't that a heartbreak?
It is.
Yeah, it's just, it's their business. Basically, their business is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's the only days that they have any business to speak of.
So let's for the listeners, let's clarify something, because you may not, if you're not from Texas, you might not understand this. In the state of Texas, counties can determine whether or not they're going to allow liquor sales, and some counties don't, and those are called dry counties, and some counties do, and those are called party counties.
Yeah.
But nobody can sell liquor on Sundays in the state of Texas.
Correct.
No,
Yeah.
that's right.
And those laws haven't changed in 100 years.
Nope.
So, true story. My dad's great aunt was married to a bootlegger during Prohibition. I have evidence now. It's kind of fun. San Francisco bootlegger. Okay. So, I want to talk about networking online for a little bit, because I made a conscious choice not to network in person, and I still haven't gone back to networking in person. So I found a networking group that meets online, and it's weekly, and at 7:00 in the morning. And my particular chapter, it's a BNI network. My particular chapter has members from 3 different states and multiple cities across the state of Michigan. So we call it a Michigan-wide chapter, but we actually have a member that lives in Kentucky and a member that lives in North Carolina. But it's a Michigan-based chapter. So I just consciously made the decision that I wasn't going to network in person, because I have a chronic health issue, and I have a compromised immune system, and I just don't want to be around people. I didn't want to have the mask discussion, right? I didn't want to have that discussion. And I have thrived in this online networking environment. And I don't feel like I need to go back to networking in person, because I've built a strong online network. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Yes. In fact, my goal for 2023 is to start an online networking group. I know BNI in California have hybrids. Like, they'll have 1 meeting a month together and 3 on Zoom, or vice versa. So that is an option. But both you ladies know I tend to like supporting women businesses, and so there's thriving online networking is great. And if you can service across states, like some people can't, like, unless a realtor is licensed in multiple states, they typically can only work in the state they're in. Might be the same thing for an attorney, right? They might only have passed the bar in California, but there are many other businesses that it doesn't matter. Like mine, I coach people in Canada, right? So we have the same thing with, most of our businesses, at least, that I know, with the women that I know, it doesn't matter. So I totally am that. So that's my goal. So I'm throwing it out there now in airspace that I want to start a women's networking group. And in fact, you're going to laugh, but you'll never guess who reached out to me. One guess.
Kiki.
Yep.
So, have you heard of Polka Dot Powerhouse?
No.
Polka Dot Powerhouse is a women's networking organization, and they mostly do online networking. And it is a phenomenal group. The most downloaded episode of my podcast is where they call themselves Dots. It's with a dot. And that episode, far and away, it did 100 times the downloads as any of my other episodes, because the dots are so supportive of each other. So look at Polka Dot Powerhouse, because it's already set up to be an online networking organization. And then the other group that I am a fan of, that I don't belong to Polka Dot Powerhouse either. I can't remember what it's called. My brain, it used to be called 42 Broads. Now it's called something else. But there is another group, and they are also embracing the whole online dynamic. For this other group whose name I can't remember, but by the time the episode goes live, the name will be in the show notes. Actually caters to professional women So it may be a better fit for you because it's the professional
Mhm.
women aspect are the, the ones who
Yeah.
are getting poor, so, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's based out of Manhattan, the Manhattan, New York area. And
Okay.
it's really, really well organized. And they have citywide chapters, but they
Mhm.
meet online. So those are two options of people that are already doing it well that you may enjoy.
Yeah, so I will look at the notes when you remember that name.
Yeah,
But that's another thing we learned over COVID, how we could do so many things well on Zoom or Teams or whatever platform, including coaching.
Mhm.
People will say, "Oh, how are you going to teach your classes?" Because I, teach goal setting classes or leadership classes, and they're online on Zoom, and they're phenomenal.
Mhm.
They really are.
Mhm.
It's a mindset. It's
Yeah. I
Yeah.
Zoom actually has been really good for my coaching business. I don't meet any of my clients in person. I do it all via Zoom. I teach a weekly class on Thursdays on Zoom, but my whole life revolves around Zoom. And I record my podcasts on Zoom. So Zoom is
There you
the
go.
best $15 a month I spend.
There you go, Glenna. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you networking before you know it.
I think Glenna would love Polka Dot Powerhouse though.
Well, I've been on Zoom call with my brain. I can't big Zoom call. This is fine. But when I went on one that there was 8 pages of people
Oh, that's a lot.
on
Oh,
it.
that's too big.
Yeah, that's too
And
big.
I like to die. I was overwhelmed. I could not deal with it. And people were getting up and down and piddling, it's like, it was distracting. I just could not deal with it. And so I go,
Yeah.
Zoom is not for me.
Well,
I cannot do Zoom.
You can find smaller groups that have less than 20 people in them. So it's only one screen.
I don't think I could handle 20. I really can't.
How
I
interesting.
can maybe handle about five at the most. Because iHub Global does Zoom too. And most everybody doesn't, you don't see them on video. They're blank, except for, a few people.
Yeah.
And those are fine. And I'm doing something else at the same time because I cannot just sit there and watch it because it drives me crazy.
You're a lurker. You're a Zoom lurker.
Yeah.
All right, we need to get wrapped up. So I have a couple more questions I want to ask each of you. So Glenna, what is your favorite marketing tool, tip, or technique?
I've been out of it for so long. It's hard for me to even. It's still making the connections, I like to meet people person to person.
So belly to belly is your favorite tool, tip, or technique?
Yeah. I mean, I know because of COVID, but it's COVID's, it's going to be here. You might as well go on and have your life and not be so scared.
Yeah. Well, it's never going away. It's going to be part of our lives for the rest of our lives. So
Yeah.
we've all learned how to adapt around it. So Tanya, same question, favorite marketing tip, tool, or technique?
It's still building relationships. I'm just building on Glenna, and what you built on when we met 10 years ago at Conroe Coffee is building relationships and being comfortable supporting other people and then asking for referrals from them. My business right now, I have a successful coaching company and 99.9% of my business is from referrals from my clients or friends and family.
Yeah.
Now I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn. So I'm learning LinkedIn, and so I have relationships that I'm building on LinkedIn, but it is right now a love-hate relationship. I love videos. So I do have a YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to subscribe, please subscribe because I do love videos and I'm starting to create them.
So links to Glenna and Tanya will be in the show notes. All their links, everything you need to connect with them will be in the show notes. It's gratitudegeek.com, episode 142. All right, last question. Glenna, for whom or what are you most grateful?
I am most grateful for my family I mean, with COVID, it was because we had a lot of family members have COVID mobilities where they had to be, they couldn't get out a lot. So I was one of the ones that went out and did the shopping and picked stuff up and ran the errands and, you know, that type of thing. Because I was not really afraid, because I used my essential oils. I still use my essential oils. I'm still an oil person, but yeah, it's you know, it's family. You know, your family's always there for you, and you should be, you know, that's where I'm at.
So a plug for your oils. You make an inhaler where you sniff it up your nose. It lasts forever and it's fantastic. So check the show notes for a link to Glenna's website. All right.
Oh yeah, I want to get connected with that, Glenna, for sure.
And when you hear about inhaler, you're like, what? Vicks used to do it with the little Vicks inhaler. It's the same concept, except it's essential oils, and it lasts more than 6 months. It's amazing. So definitely want to check that out. All right. And then Tanya, your moment of gratitude, for whom or what are you most grateful?
Definitely my grandparents. In fact, I was they're buried in San Francisco, and I was driving up to Oregon. I stopped and went to visit them at they're buried together. They came from China. They didn't speak the language. My grandfather painted, his first job was painting the Golden Gate Bridge, and the higher you went, the more you got paid. So he went to the top, and that's my genes. Yep. And they raised, you know, they were there raising me almost every day until I went into adulthood. My grandmother, there wasn't a church. So she went around and found money, asked, borrowed, stealed, whatever she had to do to get money. And they built a church, you know, and build it and they will come. So I'm grateful for what they taught me.
So I just want to talk about this for a second, because my mother was born in China, but she was not Chinese. She was Korean.
No, mine either.
And your grandparents were from China, but they were not Chinese. They were
Russian.
So China was this multicultural country. You know,
my great grandfather was the engineer who designed the Trans-Siberian Railroad, and so they lived in a Russian community as the railroad was going through China, and then the Japanese invaded, and that's when they all fled.
Yeah, and my mother's father was a professor at a university in Beijing.
Wow.
So it very, very interesting. All right, so is there anything I didn't ask either of you that you want to answer?
Oh, you're just wonderful. So thank you.
Yep.
This has been a lot of fun.
You're awesome.
Thank you. So this conversation, listener, I know this isn't what you're used to. It was a completely different kind of conversation, but it was really fun. And I hope you enjoyed it as we caught up. 3 friends who kept catching up after many years of not seeing each other or talking to each other. So this was fantastic. All right. Yep. So thanks for joining us this week for Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast, helping micropreneurs find your micro influencer magic. Your time is precious, and I am ever so grateful that you chose to spend your time with us today. Be sure to check the show notes at gratitudegeek.com, episode 142, for links to all the groovy resources mentioned today. And of course, to connect with Glenna and Tanya. And while you're there, why not subscribe to the show on Audible, iTunes, Stitcher, or any of your favorite podcast players. Our theme music is track 14 by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. I've been your host, Kandas Rodarte. Join me on my mission to spread gratitude, sow seeds of appreciation, and harvest a bounty of generosity and kindness. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.
We can make it easier than they can. We can make it better.